The same for KET, which provides lifelong education services from birth through adulthood and already has suffered some pretty severe layoffs. And we are increasing funding for student financial aid and teacher retirement. And Mary, as I recall, when we say increasing, what that means is that it is the 2010 budget levels that are in the budget right now. As opposed to straight lining and coming out from 9, we're proposing the new number that is already in the enacted 2010 budget in both of those areas for student financial aid and teacher retirement. In health care, we're fully funding Medicaid, and we're going to be preserving funding for mental health, mental retardation services, another area where the need is dramatically growing. Once again, that means the same level as in 2009. In public safety, we're preserving funding to state police and support for local jails. Again, same level as 2009. We're increasing funding for prosecutors, public advocates, and corrections. The court system must be able to function, and public safety is fundamental to quality of life. In the area of economic development, we're preserving funding for programs that allow us to recruit businesses and jobs and help existing companies expand. And we're maintaining funding for our beleaguered park system, pending an outcome of a study of the system. Included in this list also is the Department of Revenue, where we have a limited opportunity to improve our tax collections. Reduced staffing levels are jeopardizing the collection of taxes owed to the Commonwealth, to local governments, and to school districts. By making an additional modest investment in the system, into both staffing and the process, we believe we can increase the revenue that is collected to the tune of $18.5 million in fiscal year 10 and $34.5 million in fiscal year 11. That's the highlights of this plan. These highlights, along with additional information I believe we've passed out to you, are in handouts. But preserving priorities meant making cuts elsewhere. So while we are proposing all of these different priorities and maintaining and/or increasing funds in certain limited situations, we are otherwise proposing a general 2.6% cut from current fiscal year levels, from 2009 levels, for the bulk of government. That, my friends, will not be easy to implement. Many of our departments and agencies have had their spending cut in the current and previous budget cycle, so many are already operating in a very lean manner. They'll have to cut even more. How they do that will be an ongoing process. Finally, we can save money by temporarily suspending pay for a limited number of paid holidays for state employees. They currently receive 11.5 paid holidays each year. We're proposing 3 days for employees who make less than $50,000 and 5 days for those who make more than that. This will have no direct impact on services, as state government is already closed on each of those holidays involved. We believe this will help save jobs in the long run. As you all know, if you're following the other states, there's been massive layoffs in many of these states of state employees. This will help us avert massive layoffs and prevent the disruption of basic vital services. But I do realize very well that this is a sacrifice that we're asking state employees to make. So the suspension of holiday pay will apply to me as well. Moreover, my senior staff and I took, as you know, a voluntary 10% pay cut starting in January of this year, and that pay cut is going to continue through the next fiscal year, the same time period as we're asking for these state employees. As far as the road fund, Transportation Secretary Joe Prather and his staff are already operating under a budget reduction plan for the current fiscal year and have been bracing for further spending reductions in the year to come. He said he believes the Cabinet will be able to manage the $239 million shortfall, but it will be painful. The plan isn't yet set, but it will include restructuring debt and reducing general operating expenses. It's also possible that cuts will have to be made in areas like road and bridge maintenance, which historically has been virtually immune, and in traffic operations, which includes such things as traffic signals and highway signs. Now, I know other people may have other ideas on how to make up the billion-dollar general fund shortfall. I expect and I welcome a full-fledged debate of this plan. I want the legislature's input. As a state, we need it. I've been meeting with legislative leadership on this and other issues, so that dialogue has already started and will continue. But I believe, overall, this is a very prudent plan that seeks to protect Kentucky's resources and priorities, that makes appropriate and responsible use of federal stimulus dollars, given the needs in future budgets, and that shields families and businesses from tax increases and drastic reductions in programs being implemented in other states. So what's happening in other states, 47 of which are also facing shortfalls? Well, in the area of basic education, Florida has cut the amount it spends on schools by an average of $140 per student. Arizona has cut about $96 per student. South Carolina, $95 per student. Rhode Island is eliminating early education funding for 550 children. Florida's cuts to universities have led to 430 fewer positions at the University of Florida, along with reductions in financial aid. In the area of health care, Ohio plans to close 2 mental health facilities, Michigan is reducing Medicaid coverage, and California is cutting its children's health insurance program. In the area of public safety, Michigan has laid off 100 state police troopers, and New York is considering laying off more than 2,000 correctional officers. Here in Kentucky, we have avoided such dramatic and devastating actions so far by carefully and decisively managing the state budget over the last couple of years. We've acted to preserve priorities in education, health care, and public safety, and we're proposing to do it again. Finally, let me say this. I know there are also questions about what other issues we might address in this special session. The call that I have issued today has one subject in it, and that is balancing next year's budget. That is my #1 priority. It must be. But I fully anticipate that I will be amending that call in the next few days to include some other topics. I have not yet made a decision on what those topics may be that will be included, but there are 3 areas that I'm considering. First, modernizing our antiquated approach to economic development. This includes taking steps to help attract a NASCAR Sprint Cup Series race to Kentucky and to make sure we're prepared for a proposed advanced battery facility in Hardin County. Another issue is creating a mechanism to fund mega projects such as the Louisville bridges, a mechanism that would help reserve our future bonding capacity for roads and infrastructure across the state. And finally, I'm discussing the possibility of allowing video lottery terminals at horse tracks, the benefits of which include restoring a level, competitive playing field for our signature industry, an industry that is in dire trouble. These initiatives together could, over time, help us break through this troubling economic cycle by putting more people to work assembling the ideas, innovation, and commerce of tomorrow. But our first priority must and will be resolving this budget crisis. We must and we will survive, but we cannot and will not surrender. You know, this is a tough time for many people in the Commonwealth of Kentucky, where 1 in 10 people have lost their jobs and can't find another one. But we cannot lose hope, we must not lose faith, and we will not lose confidence. We will survive this. And if we work together, if we act boldly yet responsibly to preserve key areas like education, we can emerge from this stronger than we went into it.